So I've just assigned you to a really big project. You have no idea how you're going to approach it. How do you estimate that?
Oh, estimating. So yeah, I mean,
I
I'm
can
sure you've
add to
seen on,
that.
I'm sure you've seen on Twitter the whole hashtag no more estimates stuff.
Yes.
I don't agree with that because while it sounds good in theory and works on a whiteboard, that's not how businesses operate. Businesses have to make estimates, to be a business. So kind of have to make estimates. My view has always been to give an estimate range, right? And don't make it too narrow, but say, look, I think I can have this project done in 2 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks, right?
Okay, so you're going weeks. You're not doing T-shirt sizes
or
fruit
well,
baskets.
yeah. I mean, time is what I could do it in 2 sprints, or at work we usually do it per sprint.
Okay.
This will take me a sprint or 2 sprints. If it's going to take you more than 2 sprints, it's probably too big a project. We need to slice it up in smaller bits.
Kristen, how do you handle that with client requests?
Well, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's easy because I break down and I do the estimate and I say, the worst case is this, the base case is this, and it's just between them. But what I was going to interject is that I was actually in charge of a year 2000 project 2 decades ago to convert a system from, I'm pretty old. So to convert a system from 2 digits so that it would support a 4-digit year. And in that capacity, I was only the project manager. I didn't know any of the background of the business since I didn't know any programming. And I basically had to just walk into the room and say, okay, we got to get this stuff done. What do we need to do to get it done? So I literally had to ask questions, and it was the people that were doing the work that said, well, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. I was like, okay, great. So you said we need to do this. How long is it going to take you to do that? They're like, what? Yeah, well, you're going to do it. So tell me how long is it? So I had no knowledge. I couldn't do any estimate to save myself from out of a paper bag. So the most important thing is to whoever's doing the work needs to come up with the estimate, of course.
So as someone who learned to code after they were a product manager, I will tell you, it is incredible the abilities that you take on when you become technical. And I know everyone focuses on the coding and you're going to get a great job, et cetera, but it's the respect that you get when you're talking cross-functionally around things like estimates, because it's so easy for someone who doesn't know anything technically to just be like, oh, that's just a front end change. That's nothing. We can do that today. When you know on the technical front that an API needs to change, something needs to be versioned, something needs to be submitted to the Apple Store, my God. So it's just like, once you have that technical expertise to be able to nail those estimates, it really is helpful. But I agree with Chris going back on there isn't a magical tool. I haven't been able to figure out estimates yet. So if anybody's watching this and wants to send me insight, I'm here for it.
Yeah, estimates are really hard to do for technical things, for this kind of stuff. And one of the things that a lot of engineers forget to do is build in the slop time. Because
what's slop time?
So yeah, I can do this thing in 4 hours, so I'm going to say half a day for this. Well, yeah, so I can get my initial coding done in 4 hours.
Yes.
And then I have to test it and debug it and send it to QA and get it back, and forgot about this edge case, and so you got to remember to build the slop time in.
Mm-hmm.
And then
estimates are always at least 3 times out. I agree.
But a lot of developers, especially newer ones, forget about that because they're trying to be as accurate as they can. Well, you can't.
Well, but therein comes the project manager or the person in charge, because they need to know which developer is going to pad it maybe excessively, which is going to be a little bit short. And you can have an interaction with that developer when they give you an estimate. It's like, all right, so have you thought, so then you can ask questions. So have you thought about this case, or that, it needs to go through QA, or that, is it really going to take this long? So I don't know, but I still just to go to the source of who's ever doing it and get their estimate. But no, it's not. That doesn't mean it's going to be accurate. And then different people are going to be short mostly or long mostly, and then you can adjust to give it an estimate.
Creston, that's so insightful, because you're right. Everybody has a personality and everyone's going to pad it differently. And it's also a good point too, that like I have developers who know the code base really well, and they're going to give me accurate estimates, and they're going to get the work done really quickly. And I have to stop myself from assigning them all the work, You
Yeah.
have to, because otherwise you're never going to multiply.
But then other
those
people aren't going to
developers out.
learn.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to not build those future examples.
Exactly. It's all about retention, but things happen,
Yeah.
So like you have to find those projects where you can add in additional slop time. Sounds so funny. We need a prettier word. But we need those projects where you can add in that time for learning as well, because mistakes are going to be made, but it's the only way that those developers are going to learn.
Exactly.
And so it might be pairing with those tried and true developers that can get things done really quickly.
It's the way to better
probably the
estimates.
move.
Yep.
You know what? The other thing too is the developer who's learning, have them run all the documentation or run all the API changes, because that has seemed to be the most effective thing for me to get people to learn different parts of the code base without really getting in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had talked about having an episode on project management personas or developer personas, because again, everyone's different. And because I swear there was a person I worked with on this project 20 years ago that they were the Star Trek Scotty. So basically I said, okay, we need to have this thing done. He's like, are you serious? That can't be done. That's going to take 2 months, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm like, okay, well, we need to do it. Like, okay, it's going to take a while. And then like a day later, okay, here, it's done. Because Scotty was always like, oh, it's going to take, I can't do it, Captain. It's going to take forever. And then suddenly, oh, no, yeah, it's fixed.
Yeah.
You know what? I will say I play that game sometimes, but I play that game through account management and our customers, because like a customer will make like a very like outlandish request, and I'll push back and say like, I need to be given a deadline for this. I'll be like, maybe 2 weeks out, and then we'll come through and do it within a day. But that's just to teach the customer that like our time needs to be slotted in, but within the team, you can't be pulling.
And but with this particular person, it actually wasn't. That's just that was her behavior, And so it was just like
the gut reaction is, oh God, this is going to be a horrible mountain climb, and then you look at it and go,
she gets into it, and it's
bad.
like, oh, But it's like me and coding. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to do this thing, and how am I going to do this? I go into it, and I'm like, and then I do the commit. I'm like, 2 lines. This thing I thought was going to take forever. I just committed 2 lines of code changes and it's done. Yeah, those things just happen to me way too frequently.
Yeah, and it's, but going back to something you said, I was going to bring this up, but with estimates, what I've found is one of the best ways to improve estimating in your team is to use pair programming.
Mm-hmm.
Say, I want you two to go find out what the estimate for this is. And you pair a junior programmer with a senior programmer, because they start learning, because the junior programmer will ask a lot of questions. Well, what about this? Because the senior programmer knows all this stuff and has a good concept of the code base and has a general idea about how long this is going to take as soon as you ask them, usually, because of experience.
Mm-hmm.
The junior programmer is going to start asking questions and make the senior programmer think about edge cases. The senior programmer is going to teach the junior programmer how to estimate better and what kind of things you have to think about.
No one reads requirements better than junior programmers.
Exactly.
I will go to bat for that. Like, they overanalyze every single sentence, and I love them for it.
Oh, I value that highly, because that's, when you've been doing this long enough and you got enough experience, you start saying, okay, I know exactly how to do this. Boom, I'm done. Next thing, please. And you don't sit there and analyze it and say, okay, well, what about this edge case? What about this edge case? But if you get a junior person sitting next to you going, well, wait, how does that work? Can you explain that to me? And you have to start explaining things, and you go, oh, yeah, I didn't think about that.
My favorite tickets that come back to me is when a junior and a senior have worked on something, and then I get a message from the junior and they go, "We wanted to double check why we're doing this." And then I'm like, let me double check, let me make sure that this is absolutely necessary.
If you like this clip and want to watch another one, you can click right here. Or if you want to watch the full video, you can click here.